If Vizsla killed Ahsoka Tano, R2-D2 gets into the tent a little too late, and Vizsla cuts off Ahsoka Tano's head with the darksaber. Ahsoka's head goes flying, and her headless corpse, falls on the floor. Lox Bonteri cries in sadness and shock. R2-D2 immediately escapes. R2's droid friends hold off the Death Watch soldiers while R2 gets on the ship and goes back to Coruscant. R2 tells Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the rest of the Jedi what happened to Ahsoka. And the Jedi Council decides to do nothing because Mandalore is neutral and Death Watch is considered an internal Mandalorian affair, and also Ahsoka Tano was helping Lux Bonteri, and technically they were on a neutral mission, so it doesn't really fall within the jurisdiction of the Republic, so the Jedi Council decides to do nothing about Ahsoka Tano's death. Meanwhile, Anakin Skywalker is furious. Padme Amidala feels really guilty because she's the one who told Ahsoka to go help Lux Bonteri, and that's how she ended up getting her head cut off. And Obi-Wan Kenobi would be sad, and Duchess Satine would be sad as well. And Duchess Satine would probably try harder to get rid of Death Watch, but of course, since she's a pacifist, there's only so far she can go. Now, Anakin Skywalker would go hunt down Vizsla, and by this point, Vizsla would have already killed Lux Bonteri. And so Anakin Skywalker goes, he finds Vizsla, and he kills Vizsla. Now, let's assume that Bo-Katan and other Death Watch members survive because Anakin, even though he would want to kill all of Death Watch, he would be primarily focused on Vizsla, the one who killed Ahsoka Tano. So, Vizsla's dead, and Bo-Katan would be the new leader of Death Watch. Now, fast forward, after Darth Maul gets defeated by Hondo Ohnaka and Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul and Savage Opress are lying unconscious in space, and the Death Watch find them. But Bo-Katan decides to kill Darth Maul and Savage Opress while they're still unconscious, because in the real series, what happened was Bo-Katan wanted to kill Darth Maul and Savage Opress, but Vizsla wanted them alive because he wanted to know who they were. He wanted to hear their stories. So without Vizsla in the picture, Bo-Katan would just kill Darth Maul and Savage Opress, and that would be the end of it. Now, Bo-Katan would probably struggle a little bit to hold on to her leadership in Death Watch, because obviously in the real series, when Darth Maul took over Death Watch, there were some who followed Bo-Katan, but there were some who followed Darth Maul, and that's partly because of honor and the Mandalorian system. However, it might also have a little bit to do with Bo-Katan and how maybe they didn't really respect Bo-Katan's authority as much as they respected Vizsla. That's just a little bit of speculation, but the point is, Bo-Katan would still keep her leadership position, but she would have to be on her toes all the time, and she would have to constantly be in charge and making sure to assert that authority. Now, I don't think that Death Watch would be able to gain control of Mandalore and oust Satine in this scenario, because they would not have Darth Maul's brilliant plan of using the criminals to cause chaos in Mandalore. They wouldn't have Darth Maul because Bo-Katan would have killed him at this point. And Bo-Katan would probably eventually find a soft spot for Satine somehow, whatever that way may be. So, yeah, I mean, it is very complicated. And of course, with Bo-Katan now in charge of Death Watch, Satine and Korki Kryze, they would probably be a little bit more cautious, and they would probably try harder to weed out Death Watch as well, because Bo-Katan, the sister of Duchess Satine, leading the Death Watch movement, that is really bad optics for the people of Mandalore, so Satine would have to think about her publicity and how she's going to handle that, because everyone knows Bo-Katan is Satine's sister, so how is she going to handle things when it's known that her sister, the pacifist sister, is in charge of a violent criminal organization? So there would be some issues there. Now, Anakin Skywalker would have fallen deeper into the dark side because he would have just killed Vizsla and got revenge for Ahsoka Tano. And Anakin, he would just get darker and darker, and of course Darth Sidious would weaponize Anakin's darkness and use it to accelerate his turn to the dark side. Now, Anakin would not blame Padme for Ahsoka's death because, Padme just did her best, so he wouldn't blame her. The rest of the Clone Wars would turn out the same, except there would be no Darth Maul or Savage Opress, and Mother Talzin would have to figure out a different way to get revenge on Darth Sidious, and let's say Darth Sidious would eventually find out a way to destroy Mother Talzin. Now, come time of Revenge of the Sith, Anakin is slightly darker because, of course, Ahsoka has been killed, so Anakin would be slightly darker, and there would be no Siege of Mandalore because Satine would still be in charge of Mandalore. Now, Revenge of the Sith would still turn out mostly the same. However, after the Empire rises and Darth Sidious takes power, he would go after the neutral systems, and he would go after Mandalore. And Duchess Satine would do her best to resist Darth Sidious, but eventually she'll be forced out. And Darth Vader would probably capture Duchess Satine and use her as bait to lure out Obi-Wan Kenobi. And old Ben Kenobi would either have to let Satine die and let go of his attachments, or Ben Kenobi would have to go and face Darth Vader. And let's say Ben Kenobi goes and faces Darth Vader, and that's the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and instead of using Leia, they use Satine, and Ben Kenobi takes Satine to Tatooine, they escape, and Ben Kenobi and Satine go to Tatooine, where they tie the knot and get married, and Satine Kryze becomes Satine Kenobi, and basically Duchess Satine becomes Mrs. Kenobi, and they get married or something. I mean, that would be the biggest implication. So, if Pre Vizsla killed Ahsoka Tano, then Anakin Skywalker would get really furious and dark, and he would probably kill Pre Vizsla. Bo-Katan would take control of Death Watch. Satine would remain in power, and Darth Maul would have died because Bo-Katan would kill him. And later during the Empire, Satine would be forced out of power, but Darth Vader might use Satine as a hostage to get out Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Obi-Wan Kenobi might rescue her, or Satine might die, whatever the case is. And if things went well, then Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine would finally get married. And I guess if Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine were married, then maybe Obi-Wan would try not to die in A New Hope. And he might try to escape and be with Satine, and maybe Satine would help out Leia and Luke as well. And, if Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine got married, maybe they could have more children, and there could be more Force instead of children for them to train. So that's the bright spot there. So if Pre Vizsla killed Ahsoka Tano, then Duchess Satine and Obi-Wan Kenobi would have gotten married.